Hello, this is Frank Falvey with Frank Presents, and we have a new rabbi in town, Rabbi Tom Albert.
Albert, yes.
Albert.
Thank you,
Albert.
Frank.
Welcome. Tom, you're the rabbi at Temple Shamir, not Shamir.
Hi. Let me do it. It's a little tough. Etz Chaim.
Ek Haim.
Yes.
Ek Haim. Which is out, is that Washington Street or King Street?
It is. It's on Washington Street after King and Washington come together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as a congregation, you've been here quite a while now in Franklin.
We have. We're relatively new, and yet we've. My understanding, the congregation's really integrated itself into the fabric of the community. The synagogue was founded. Informally, some people started to get together in 1989. We were chartered in 1991, so we've been here now for 21 years.
Wow.
We're just old enough to vote.
Wow, that is great. First of all, welcome to Franklin.
Thank you.
Franklin has a lot to recommend it. It's a very family-oriented and young community.
Mm-hmm.
You were down on the 4th of July on the Common.
Yes, that's where we met.
Right, and so you're familiar with our 4th and fireworks and community parade. And
I was told, whatever you do, don't miss it. I started working July 1st, and sure enough, by July 3rd, I was down at the Common, seeing what a great celebration there is here, and seeing why all the things people had told me were true.
Right. Tom, where did you grow up?
I grew up, as you cannot tell from my accent, in Galveston, Texas.
Okay.
My family were transplanted. My mother actually was a refugee from Hitler's Germany, but eventually came to the U.S. My father was from the Springfield area, and they went down to Texas. He was transferred by the company he was working for, and that's where I grew up.
In Texas, in which part of Texas? Though?
In Galveston, which is on the Gulf Coast near Houston.
Which had the famous flood and hurricane.
It did.
And the song about it.
Exactly. That's the one.
So how long were you there? Through high school?
Pretty much. My family was there till, it was sort of officially home base through college and all. I actually went to boarding school in New England, up in New Hampshire, and then did my college.
Tilton?
I'm sorry?
Tilton?
Exeter.
Exeter, okay.
Yep.
Exeter.
And did college at Yale, and then came to the Boston area for grad school, and have been, except for 1 year, have been in the, greater Boston metropolitan area, whatever you want to call it, ever since I finished college.
What did you major in at Yale?
Majored in history.
In any particular period?
American history, especially, and no, really covered all of it. It was, I really like history, still do.
We discovered that we have a mutual friend. At Boston University, you can take courses, and I took this course with Christopher Evans.
Yes.
And learned that Cooperstown is not the home of baseball, where baseball was founded. It was founded somewhere else. But Christopher is a great history teacher, and I gather he was your neighbor in Needham.
Yes, exactly. He was. His son and my son were on the volleyball team together. So while the kids were off playing, we had a great time talking about history and religion.
Which this book is about.
Exactly. And sports, so it all fit together.
Right. So you mentioned that you went to graduate school in the Boston area.
Mm-hmm.
Graduate school for what?
So being a rabbi is a second career for me. I was actually started in graduate school in history, so Chris Evans and I had that in common as well. But I went on to law school, and I received my law degree in 1982, and practiced law for about 10, 11 years
Suffolk or
before
BC?
Harvard.
Harvard.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
So,
Were-
and
were
met
you-
my wife in law school.
Were you there with Obama?
I was there just a few years before.
Okay.
We didn't overlap.
All right.
I remember reading about him a few years after I'd graduated, and he was the head of the Harvard Law Review, and saying, that's an interesting guy. I wonder what's going to happen to him. Who knew?
So you met your wife at Harvard?
I did. She was also a refugee from a graduate program. She'd been in English there, and so we had that in common. We met, and a few years later, we got married.
Did she become a lawyer?
She did. She practices law in Boston. She does special education law. She represents families of kids when they're trying to find the proper placement for themselves in special education.
And what type of law did you practice?
I was a litigator, courtroom work, and I was at a firm in Boston for a few years, and then I spent most of my time at the Massachusetts Attorney General's office.
In what division?
Started out, spent most of the time in antitrust.
In antitrust.
Yes.
Okay.
So, sort of different from what I'm doing now.
Well, somewhat.
Somewhat.
You have to be a great writer to be an attorney, and I'm sure those writing skills transfer into rabbinical skills.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I certainly, the skills of writing, of research, of public speaking, all those things that I worked on as a lawyer, I use in my rabbinate. On the other hand, some of my favorite moments as a lawyer would be when I'd be in an office and someone would come in and have something they want to talk about and work through in their lives, and I realized after a while that that was really the stuff I enjoyed, and that had a lot to do with my move.
Are you familiar with Tom Porter at all, who was with Porter and Milliken?
No, I'm
Okay.
not.
He teaches now at BU, and he teaches a thing called Peace and Justice. He teaches a lot around mediation.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Do you like mediation?
I do, actually. I did some. I've done some training in mediation, and I think that the concept of good mediation, that is to say, getting people, in the title of a famous book on the subject, getting people to yes, getting them to be able to figure out what they can do together that will help them help them get to a win-win situation, and that's very important. And I think has a lot to do that can be helpful in congregations as well, and religious institutions trying to work through their issues. Having those skills, I think, has been very helpful.
Where did you go to rabbinical school?
I went to rabbinical school at the Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion, which is a mouthful. It has 3 campuses in the U.S. I went to the one in New York City. And I was ordained in 2000.
And who were you ordained by?
I was ordained. So the way it works in most Jewish ordination is that the school actually ordains you. So I was ordained by HUC-JIR, which is the Reform Rabbinical Seminary. So by being ordained by HUC-JIR, I became a Reform rabbi.